The Kelith Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their ships were the size of mountains. Their armies numbered in the billions. Across 1,000 worlds, their name meant fear and obedience. When their scouts found Earth, they expected nothing special. Just another primitive world to add to their collection. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of her aircraft carrier when the alien ships first appeared in Earth's sky. She was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too many training exercises for a war that never came. Now, watching the massive alien vessels block out the sun, she understood that everything had changed. The Kelith sent their diplomats to Earth within a week. They were tall creatures, almost 8 feet high, with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. Their eyes were large and dark, showing no emotion. They walked into the United Nations building in Geneva as if they already owned it. The lead diplomat, whose name translated roughly to Blade of Dawn, spoke through a small device that changed his clicking sounds into English. His message was simple. Your world now belongs to the Kelith Empire. You will provide us with minerals, food, and workers. You will not resist. Species that resist are destroyed. The room fell silent. World leaders looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Some wanted to fight immediately. Others wanted to surrender completely. But Secretary General Daniel Hughes, a quiet man from a small town in Vermont, simply smiled and nodded. We understand, he said calmly. Perhaps we could discuss the details over the coming months. There is much we could learn from each other. Blade of Dawn found this response strange. Other species screamed or cried or made threats they could not keep. These humans just smiled and asked for meetings. He reported to his commanders that Earth would be an easy conquest. The humans were weak and frightened. Hiding their fear behind politeness, he was very wrong. Over the next 3 years, humanity played its role perfectly. They sent tribute ships filled with minerals to the Kelith homeworld. They answered every demand with a smile and a request for more time. They invited Kelith officials to dinners and concerts and showed them the beauty of human art and music. They seemed like the perfect servants. Captain Kevin Morris was assigned to work with the alien delegation in Washington. He was a young officer, only 32, with a friendly face that made everyone trust him. His real job was to watch the Kelith and report everything he learned. They think we are harmless, he told Admiral Morgan during one of their secret meetings. They have put us in their lowest threat category. They believe we have accepted our fate. Admiral Morgan smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Good. That is exactly what we want them to believe. Far beneath the Rocky Mountains, in tunnels that appeared on no map, thousands of scientists worked day and night. The project was called Prometheus. Its goal was simple: build weapons that could defeat the Kale. Dr. Hannah Cole led the research team. She was a small woman with messy red hair and glasses that were always falling down her nose. Before the invasion, she had been a professor at a small university, teaching physics to bored students. Now she was building the most dangerous weapons in human history. Within 6 months, her team had figured out how the Kelith ships traveled faster than light. Within a year, they had built engines that were even better. Within 2 years, they had created weapons that could cut through Kelith armor like it was made of paper. How are we doing this? Asked General Marcus Webb during one of his visits to the underground base. They have 12,000 years of technology ahead of us. Dr. Cole pushed her glasses up and shrugged. Humans are good at one thing, General. When someone threatens our survival, we become very creative very fast. The Kelith have been the strongest species in the galaxy for so long that they stopped trying to improve. We have not had that luxury. Above ground, the performance continued. Secretary General Hughes met with Kelith officials every week, always polite, always agreeable. He learned their language, studied their culture, and made them feel comfortable. He laughed at their jokes and praised their empire. He made them believe that humans were grateful for Kelith protection in private. He coordinated the largest secret military buildup in human history. Every nation on Earth contributed to the effort. Old enemies worked together. Factories that once made cars now made warship parts in hidden underground facilities. Soldiers trained in remote locations preparing for a battle they hoped would never come. The entire planet held its breath and smiled at its captors. Lisa Morgan watched the Kelith ships in orbit every night. She knew their patrol patterns, their communication schedules, their weaknesses. She had studied them the way a hunter studies prey. And she waited. The Kelith made one mistake after another. They reduced their military presence around Earth because humans were so cooperative. They shared technology with human scientists, believing it would make tribute collection more efficient. They never searched for hidden facilities because they never imagined humans could build them. 3 years after first contact, humanity had a secret fleet of 200 warships hidden beneath the oceans and inside mountains. They had weapons that could destroy Kelith vessels in seconds. They had soldiers trained and ready to fight, and they had a plan. But Admiral Morgan knew that weapons alone would not be enough. The Kelith Empire was vast. Even if Earth won the first battle, the aliens would send more ships. They would keep coming until humanity was crushed. Earth needed something else. Something that would make the Kelith afraid to attack. Dr. Cole provided the answer during a late-night meeting in the underground base. "We call it the Prometheus device," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It can make a star explode. We can destroy entire solar systems with a single weapon." The room went completely silent. General Webb stared at her as if she had gone insane. "You're talking about killing billions of lives?" "I am talking about making sure no one ever tries to enslave us again." Dr. Cole's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "I do not want to use it. None of us do. But if the Kelith know we can destroy their worlds, they will think twice before attacking ours." Admiral Morgan looked at the weapon specifications for a long time. She thought about her children, about her grandchildren, about all the generations that would come after. She thought about what it meant to build something so terrible. "Build 3 of them," she said finally, "and pray we never have to use them." Outside, the Kelith continued their patrols, confident in their power. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. Earth was just another prize in their collection. They did not notice the humans looking up at them with cold eyes and patient smiles. The storm was coming, and humanity was ready. 3 years of smiling and bowing came to an end on a cold morning in December. The Kelith had grown comfortable with their human servants. Tribute arrived on time. Workers followed orders without complaint. Earth was considered the perfect example of how conquered species should behave. Then Governor Threketh arrived. He was young for a Kelith leader, ambitious and hungry for glory. He looked at Earth and saw an opportunity to prove himself to the Empire. The current arrangement was profitable, but it could be more profitable. Humans were strong workers. Why waste them on just one planet? The announcement came without warning. Every screen on Earth displayed the same message. Governor Threketh stood on the steps of what used to be the United Nations building, his dark eyes showing nothing but contempt for the creatures he ruled. "The Empire requires workers for mining colonies in distant systems," he declared. 10 million humans will be selected for labor service. Families will be separated as needed. Service terms will be indefinite. Selection begins in 30 days. Across the planet, people watched in horror. Parents held their children closer. Workers stopped in the middle of their tasks. Soldiers gripped their weapons and waited for orders that did not come. Commander. Amy Santos was eating dinner with her 2 children when the broadcast aired. Her husband had died in a training accident 2 years ago, leaving her to raise them alone while serving in the secret space fleet. Her daughter, Emma, 12 years old, looked at her with frightened eyes. "Mom, are they going to take us away?" Amy put down her fork and looked at her children. She thought about the oath she had taken, the secrets she had kept, the weapons hidden beneath the ocean waiting for this moment.
"Al, sweetheart,"
she said quietly. "They are not going to take anyone." That night, Amy received a message on her secure communication device. It contained only 2 words: protocol silence. Similar messages went out to 15,000. Military personnel around the world. Pilots reported to hidden bases. Ship crews descended into underwater facilities. Weapon systems powered up in mountain bunkers that the Kelith did not know existed. Secretary. General Daniel Hughes requested an emergency meeting with Governor Threketh. He arrived at the administrative building with his usual calm smile. Wearing a simple gray suit and carrying nothing but a small tablet computer, "Governor, I must express our concern about the labor decree," he said, his voice as polite as ever. "Perhaps we could discuss alternative arrangements. Surely there are other ways to meet the Empire's needs." Threketh made a sound like grinding rocks. It was the Keleth version of laughter. "Your concerns mean nothing, human. The decree is final. You will provide workers, or you will be punished." "I see." Hughes paused for a moment, his smile slowly fading. "We have tried very hard to be good partners, Governor. We have done everything you asked. We have been patient and cooperative and reasonable. You have been adequate servants. Nothing more." Hughes nodded slowly. He pressed a button on his tablet, sending a signal that traveled at the speed of light to facilities across the planet. "Then I must inform you that the people of Earth formally reject the labor conscription decree. We are withdrawing from all agreements with the Keleth Empire, effective immediately." Threketh's eyes widened. For a moment he could not speak. No conquered species had ever refused an order. It was unthinkable. "You reject? With what authority? What force could you possibly have?" Hughes stood up, straightening his jacket. The polite servant was gone. In his place stood something harder, something colder, something that had been hiding behind a smile for 3 years. "I think you have misunderstood our species, Governor. We were polite because we chose to be. We were patient because we needed time. That time has ended." Outside the building, the sky began to change. From beneath the Pacific Ocean, warships rose through the waves like massive metal whales. From mountain bases in the Himalayas, vessels launched into the atmosphere on pillars of blue fire. From underground bunkers in Antarctica, carriers emerged from ice that had hidden them for years. 300 human warships climbed toward space in perfect formation. Their hulls were dark gray, designed to absorb sensor signals. Their weapons glowed with energy that the Keleth had never seen before. They moved faster than anything the Empire had ever built. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the carrier Endurance, watching the stars grow closer. "All ships." "This is Fleet Command," she said into her communication device. "Execute protocol silence. Target all Keleth vessels in Earth's orbit. Weapons free." The Keleth patrol fleet had 47 ships. They were the pride of the Empire, veterans of 100 conquests. Their commanders had never lost a battle because no one had ever been able to fight them. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human weapons cut through. Keleth armor like sunlight through fog. Missiles moved so fast that the aliens could not track them. Energy beams found weak points in enemy hulls with perfect precision. One by one, Keleth ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Commander Amy Santos flew her fighter through the debris field, searching for survivors to rescue and enemies to destroy. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. She thought of her children, safe on the ground below. She felt no mercy for those who had threatened them. Captain Kevin Morris led a boarding team onto Governor Threketh's command ship. They moved through the corridors with weapons ready, stepping over the bodies of Keleth warriors who had never faced soldiers like these. They found the governor on the bridge, surrounded by his dead guards, staring at the screens that showed his fleet dying. Threketh demanded, "How is this possible?" Kevin pointed his weapon at the alien's head. "We were never your servants, Governor. We were just waiting." On the ground, Secretary General Hughes watched the sky light up with distant explosions. Each flash represented a Keleth ship dying, a step toward freedom. He felt no joy in the destruction, only tired relief. "Send a message to the Keleth homeworld," he told his aide. "Let them know what happened here. Tell them that Earth is no longer part of their empire." "What exactly should I say, sir?" Hughes thought for a moment. 3 years of pretending, of smiling at creatures who saw his people as slaves, of building weapons in secret while acting like a grateful servant. All of it had led to this moment. Tell them that we were polite. Tell them that we tried to find a peaceful solution. And tell them that we are done asking permission to be free. The message was sent. Across the galaxy, the Kelith Empire heard the news and refused to believe it. A primitive species, barely out of its solar system, had destroyed an entire fleet in minutes. It was impossible, but the burning wreckage in Earth's orbit told a different story. Humanity had shown its teeth, and the universe would never be the same. The news spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. A species that had been conquered only 3 years ago had destroyed an entire Kelith fleet. 47 warships, veterans of 100 battles, reduced to floating debris in 11 minutes. It seemed impossible. It was impossible. And yet it had happened. On worlds across the Orion Arm, conquered peoples watched the recordings with amazement. The Kelith had seemed unstoppable for 12,000 years. Now, for the first time, someone had proven they could be beaten. High Commander Vorith received the news in his throne room on the Kelith homeworld. He was old by his species standards, nearly 400 years, and he had led the Empire through countless victories. Nothing in his long life had prepared him for this. "Show me the battle footage again," he ordered. His advisors played the recording for the 17th time. The same images appeared on the screen, Kelith ships exploding, human vessels moving with impossible speed, weapons that cut through armor as if it did not exist. Each time Vorith watched, he looked for some explanation, some weakness he could exploit. Each time, he found nothing. How did they do this? He asked his military council. How did primitive creatures build ships better than ours? Fleet Admiral Nathric, the oldest and wisest of the War Council, studied the tactical data with growing concern. Their weapons use energy patterns we have never seen before. Their engines appear to be based on our faster-than-light technology, but they have improved it far beyond our capabilities. Improved it? We have been developing that technology for 8,000 years, and they improved it in 3. Nathric's voice was heavy with something that might have been respect. We underestimated them, High Commander. We saw a young species and assumed they were weak. We did not consider that young species are also hungry and desperate and creative in ways that old empires are not. Vorith slammed his armored fist against his throne. The impact echoed through the chamber. I do not care how they did it. I care about destroying them. Assemble the Grand Fleet, every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. We will burn that world until nothing remains but ash. The order went out across the Empire. Ships gathered from 1,000 systems. Soldiers left their posts and reported to transport vessels. Weapons factories worked day and night, producing missiles and energy cores and armor plating. Within 3 months, the largest military force in Kelith history had assembled at the edge of human space. 8,000 warships, 50 million soldiers. Enough firepower to destroy planets. On Earth, humanity watched and prepared. Admiral Lisa Morgan expanded the fleet to 500 ships, but she knew it would not be enough. The Kelith were angry, and angry empires made mistakes. But they also brought overwhelming force. Even if Earth won every battle, the aliens would keep sending more ships until humanity was exhausted. We need something that will end this war quickly, she told her council. Something that will make them afraid to attack us. Dr. Hannah Cole stood at the back of the room, her face pale with exhaustion. She had not slept more than 4 hours a night since the first battle. Her team had been working on something new, something terrible, something that might save humanity or damn it forever. The Prometheus device is ready, she said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what the device could do. Everyone understood what using it would mean. General Marcus Webb spoke first. You are suggesting we threaten to destroy their stars, kill billions of innocent beings. I am suggesting we show them what we can do, Dr. Cole replied. We do not have to use it on populated systems. We can demonstrate on an empty star. Make them understand that we have the power to hurt them in ways they cannot imagine. Admiral Morgan looked around the room. She saw fear in some eyes, determination in others. Everyone understood that this decision would shape the future of humanity. Choose a target, she said finally. An uninhabited system, far from any population. We will show them what we are capable of. The human vessel. Quiet Thunder carried the first Prometheus device to a solar system 30 light years from Earth, Captain. Eric Palmer commanded the mission with a crew of 50. All volunteers who understood they might not return. The system was empty except for a yellow star and a few rocky planets. No life had ever developed there. No civilization had ever called it home. It was simply a collection of rocks orbiting a ball of burning gas. The Prometheus device was smaller than most people expected. It looked like a metal cylinder, about the size of a car, covered with sensors and control systems. Inside, forces that humans barely understood waited to be released. Deploy the device, Captain Palmer ordered. The quiet thunder launched the cylinder toward the star and then turned to retreat. They had 6 hours before detonation. But no one wanted to be close when it happened. Dr. Cole had explained the science. But the crew still did not fully understand it. The device would inject specific particles into the star's core, destabilizing the fusion reactions that kept it burning. The result would be catastrophic expansion, followed by complete collapse, a supernova created by human hands. They watched from 2 light days away as the star died. First it brightened, growing from yellow to white to brilliant blue. Then it began to expand, swelling like a balloon being filled with light. The rocky planets were swallowed first, then vaporized as temperatures rose beyond measurement. Finally, the star collapsed inward and then exploded outward with force that sent shock waves across the system. Captain Palmer recorded everything. Every sensor on his ship captured data. Every camera pointed at the dying star. When it was over, when the light faded and the debris began to spread, he sent the recording to Earth with a simple message. It works. Admiral Morgan forwarded the recording to the Keleth Grand Fleet with her own message. I, Commander Vorith. This is Admiral Lisa Morgan of Earth Defense Command. We have just destroyed a star in the outer rim. We have 2 more devices ready for deployment. We do not wish to use them on your populated worlds. We do not wish for more death, but we will protect our home by any means necessary. Request a meeting to discuss peace terms. On his flagship, Vorith watched the recording with the same cold attention he had given the battle footage. He watched a star explode. He watched planets disappear. He watched empty space fill with radiation that would kill any ship foolish enough to enter. Can they really do this? He asked Nathric. The energy signatures match nothing in our database. Our scientists believe it may involve manipulation of stellar forces at the quantum level. The Admiral paused. If they can do it to one star, they can do it to any star, including ours. Vorith sat in silence for a long time. He thought about his empire, his people, his legacy. He thought about sending his fleet against Earth and winning, only to watch his homeworld burn in response. He thought about what it meant to face an enemy who could destroy suns. Send a message to the human fleet, he said at last. Tell them we will meet. Tell them we will discuss their terms. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Keleth Empire asked to negotiate instead of demanding surrender. Dr. Cole heard the news in her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. She sat down heavily in her chair and covered her face with her hands. Her assistants thought she was crying with relief. She was not crying with relief. She was crying because she had just helped create a weapon that could end civilizations. She would carry that weight for the rest of her life. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity had changed with it. The negotiations took place on a space station built specifically for this purpose. It orbited a dead world in neutral space, far from both Earth and the Keleth homeworld. Neither side trusted the other enough to meet in enemy territory. Secretary General Daniel Hughes led the human delegation. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood at his right side, her uniform decorated with medals she had never expected to earn. Captain Kevin Morris and 3 other officers completed the team. They wore formal dress uniforms and carried no visible weapons, though everyone knew that meant nothing. High Commander Vorith brought his own delegation. He was larger than Hughes had imagined, nearly 9 feet tall, with armor that gleamed under the station lights. His compound eyes reflected everything but revealed nothing. Behind him stood his admirals and advisors, all watching the humans with careful attention. The 2 groups faced each other across a round table made of polished metal from an asteroid. The table was neutral, built by machines rather than either species. Even the air was a mixture that neither found comfortable. But both could breathe. No one spoke for a long moment. Hughes studied the alien commander with the same careful attention he had given to Kelith officials for 3 years, but there was no smile on his face now. No polite phrases waiting on his tongue. The time for performance had ended. "Hi, Commander," he said finally. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Voreth's voice came through a translator device, deep and resonant. "You killed many of my people, human. Do not expect me to be grateful for this conversation. And you plan to enslave mine. Neither of us has clean hands in this conflict." Hughes leaned forward slightly. "But I did not come here to discuss blame. I came here to discuss the future. The future." Voreth made a sound that might have been laughter. "The future is simple. Either your species surrenders, or we destroy you. And how many of your systems will we destroy in return?" Admiral Morgan spoke for the first time, her voice calm and measured. "We have identified 17 star systems critical to your empire. Military shipyards, agricultural worlds, industrial centers, your homeworld." She slid a tablet across the table. "We can reach all of them within 6 months. Voreth examined the data. His eyes flickered across, targeting solutions, travel routes, vulnerability assessments. The humans had done their research. Every system on the list was indeed important, and every one could be reached by their weapons. "You would kill billions of innocents. We would defend our survival," Hughes replied. "There is a difference, though I understand if you do not see it that way. And what if we attacked Earth directly? What if we destroyed your homeworld before you could strike ours? Then your empire would still burn." Morgan's voice showed no emotion. "We have ships positioned throughout your space already, hidden, waiting. If Earth falls, they have orders to continue the mission. You might kill us, High Commander, but you would not survive to celebrate." Silence filled the chamber. Voreth looked at the human woman who spoke so calmly about genocide, about mutual destruction, about the end of civilizations. She was small by Kelith standards, barely reaching his chest. But she met his gaze without fear. "You're serious," he said slowly. "You would actually do this?" "We would rather not." Hughes's voice softened slightly. "We never wanted this war, Commander. When your ships first appeared in our sky, we hoped for friendship. We hoped to learn from you, to trade with you, to build something together. Instead, you demanded our submission. That is how the galaxy works. The strong rule, the weak serve. Perhaps. But we have learned something in the past 3 years." Hughes stood, walking to the window that showed the dead planet below. "We learned that we would rather die than be slaves. We learned that our freedom is worth more than our lives. And we learned that we are capable of terrible things when someone threatens what we love." He turned back to face Voreth. "I have spent 3 years smiling at your ambassadors while my people built weapons of mass destruction. I have shaken hands with officials who saw us as livestock while my scientists created devices that can murder stars. I have pretended to be weak and grateful while planning to burn your empire to the ground if necessary. And now?" Voreth asked. "Now I want to stop. I want to go home. I want to sleep without dreaming about the things I might have to do." Hughes walked back to his chair and sat down heavily. "I am tired, Commander. So tired of preparing for atrocities. I do not want to use those weapons. I do not want more death. But I will burn the galaxy to ash before I let you take my people in chains. Do you understand me?" Voreth looked at the human for a long moment. He saw the exhaustion in those alien eyes, the weight of 3 years of fear and planning and terrible responsibility. This was not a conqueror sitting across from him. This was not a warmonger seeking glory. This was a tired leader who had done unthinkable things to protect his home and would do worse if forced. In that moment, Voreth understood something about humans that his species had completely missed. Their politeness had not been weakness. Their smiles had not been submission. They had been patient because they needed time, and they had been kind because they believed in kindness. When that kindness was rejected, when their attempts at peace were met with threats of slavery, they had become something else entirely. "What terms do you offer?" he asked. The relief on Hughes's face was visible. Simple ones. Earth remains independent and free. Human ships can travel through your space without interference. In exchange, we will not use the Prometheus device against populated systems unless directly attacked. We will establish diplomatic relations and work toward eventual cooperation. That is generous. Perhaps too generous. What prevents you from making more demands later when you are stronger? Nothing except our word. But consider this, Commander. We could have demanded much more. We could have insisted on territory, on tribute, on the collapse of your entire empire. Instead, we ask only to be left alone. Hughes spread his hands. We are not conquerors. We do not want your throne. We just want to live in peace. Vorith considered this. His admirals shifted nervously behind him, waiting for his decision. The fate of trillions rested on what he said next. The Council will not accept this easily. Many will want revenge for the ships you destroyed. And many of my people want revenge for 3 years of occupation. But leaders must sometimes make unpopular choices for the greater good. Hughes met his eyes. We can spend the next century destroying each other, or we can start building something better. The choice is yours. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. Details were argued, language was adjusted, compromises were made. Both sides left the table feeling that they had given up too much and gained too little. That, Hughes thought, was probably a sign of a fair agreement. When the treaty was finally signed, Vorith approached Hughes privately. Question, if I may. Would you really have used those weapons? Destroyed inhabited worlds? Hughes was quiet for a moment. I hoped it would never come to that. I prayed it would never come to that. But yes, if you had left us no other choice, we would have done it. Not happily, not proudly, but we would have done it. That is troubling. It should be. We trouble ourselves. Hughes allowed himself a small, tired smile. Perhaps that is what peace requires, Commander. 2 sides who understand exactly how far the other is willing to go and choose not to go there. Vorith nodded slowly. Perhaps you are right. But I hope I never have to learn whether you would truly cross that line. So do I, Hughes said quietly. So do I. The human delegation returned to Earth as heroes. Keleth fleet withdrew to their own space, and across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear for 12,000 years began to wonder if freedom might be possible after all. The war was over. But the consequences were just beginning. 10 years passed. The galaxy transformed in ways that no one had expected. The Keleth Empire still existed, but its power had faded. Other species, inspired by humanity's example, began to push back against their rulers. Some won their freedom through negotiation. Others required more forceful methods. The great empire that had dominated the stars for 12,000 years was slowly breaking apart. Not through war, but through the simple realization that it could be challenged. Earth changed too. The secret military programs became public knowledge. Citizens learned about the underground bases, the hidden fleet, the terrible weapons their government had built. Some celebrated this as necessary defense. Others condemned it as preparation for genocide. The debates filled news broadcasts and dinner tables and political campaigns for years. Dr. Hannah Cole received the highest awards her planet could offer. She accepted them with a heavy heart. Each ceremony reminded her of what her work had created, what it could still do, what it meant about humanity's capacity for destruction. She spent her acceptance speeches apologizing more than celebrating. I helped build something terrible, she said at the Nobel Prize ceremony. I did it because I thought it was necessary. I still think it was necessary, but that does not make it good. We should never be proud of creating weapons that can end civilizations. We should only be grateful that we did not have to use them. Admiral Lisa Morgan retired to a small house on the coast of Maine. She spent her days gardening and watching the ocean and trying not to think about the decisions that had shaped history. Sometimes she succeeded. Most nights she did not. Commander Amy Santos left the military to raise her children. Emma, now 22, was studying to become a diplomat. She wanted to prevent wars before they started, to find peaceful solutions that her mother's generation had not been able to find. Amy was proud of her, even though she sometimes felt that her daughter was rejecting everything she had fought for. "I am not rejecting it," Emma told her during one of their conversations. "I am building on it. You showed the galaxy that we could fight. I want to show them that we would rather not." Captain Kevin Morris stayed in the service, commanded a diplomatic vessel now, traveling between worlds and building the relationships that the treaty had made possible. He found it strange, after years of spying and fighting, to simply talk to aliens as equals. Strange, but good. Secretary General Daniel Hughes served 2 more terms before stepping down. His final address was broadcast across human space and beyond. To all the species who had watched Earth's rise from conquered world to galactic power, "We learned something about ourselves during those difficult years," he said, standing at the podium where he had smiled at Kelith officials so many times before. "We learned that we are capable of terrible things when pushed to extremes. We built weapons that could murder stars. We prepared ourselves for actions that would haunt us forever. We would have used them if no other choice remained." He paused, looking out at the assembled delegates and cameras. That knowledge is a burden we carry with us still. But it is also a reminder of what we must never become. We were polite because we believed in diplomacy. We were patient because we wanted peace. We showed our teeth only when showing anything else would have meant extinction. To the other peoples of this galaxy, we come in friendship. We mean that sincerely. We want to trade with you, learn from you, build a future together, but we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. We will not accept tyranny in any form. If you respect our freedom, you will find no better friends. If you threaten our existence—" Hughes smiled, and for a moment the watching galaxy glimpsed the steel that had always hidden behind his kind eyes. "Well, let us hope we never have to find out what happens then." On the Kelith homeworld, retired High Commander Vorith watched. The broadcast with his grandchildren gathered around him. They were young, curious about the universe and the strange species that had humbled their empire. They asked him questions about humans constantly. "Were you afraid of them, grandfather?" his eldest grandchild asked. Ruff considered the question for a long time. He thought about the battle recordings, the destroyed fleet, the weapon that had killed a star. He thought about Daniel Hughes sitting across the negotiating table, exhausted and determined and willing to burn everything to protect his people. "Yes," he said finally, "I was afraid of them. But not because they were strong, though they were. Not because they were clever, though they were that too. Then why? Because they were kind." Vorith's voice was quiet, thoughtful. "They wanted to be our friends. They truly did. When we first came to their world, they offered us music and art and partnership. They smiled at our diplomats and learned our language and tried to find common ground." He looked at his grandchildren with ancient eyes that had seen more than they could imagine. "And when we rejected all of that, when we tried to make them slaves, they became something else. Something that smiled politely while building weapons to end civilizations. Something that negotiated in good faith while positioning ships to destroy our homeworld." He shook his head slowly. "Never push a kind species to cruelty, children. The ones who want peace most desperately will fight harder for it than any conqueror ever could." The grandchildren were silent, processing this wisdom from a warrior who had learned it the hard way. Across the galaxy, humanity continued to spread. They built colonies on distant worlds, established research stations in unexplored systems, made contact with species that the Kelith had never reached. They traded and explored and learned, just as they had always wanted to do. But they never forgot the lessons of those early years. Every human ship carried weapons capable of devastating force. Every colony maintained defenses that could repel invasion. The Prometheus devices remained in secure storage, their existence a silent warning to anyone who might forget what humanity was capable of. Some species called them paranoid, others called them wise, most simply called them survivors. On Earth, in a small ceremony attended only by family, Amy Santos's daughter Emma received her first diplomatic posting. A world that had recently gained independence from the Kelith, helping them establish relations with the wider galaxy. Amy watched her daughter accept the assignment with tears in her eyes. She thought about the war she had fought, the friends she had lost, the terrible choices her generation had made, and she thought about the future her daughter would help build. "Are you proud of me, Mom?" Emma asked afterward. Amy hugged her tightly. Always. You are everything we fought for. Emma pulled back slightly, looking at her mother with serious eyes. Do you think I can really make a difference? Do you think diplomacy can work? I think it has to. Amy smiled, though there was sadness in it. We showed the galaxy that we could destroy anything that threatened us. It is your turn to show them that we would rather build instead. The sun set over the Atlantic Ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Mother and daughter stood together watching the light fade, thinking about the past and the future. Somewhere out in the darkness of space, human ships continued their journeys. Explorers seeking new worlds. Diplomats building new friendships. Soldiers standing ready to defend everything their species had gained. Earth had sent its message to the galaxy. We were polite, but that politeness was a choice. We wanted peace, but we were prepared for war. Push us, and you will learn what we are truly capable of. The warning had been received. The galaxy had listened, and humanity looked toward the stars with hope in their hearts and steel in their spines, ready for whatever came next.